My life is surrounded by buckets. I could go outside my door onto my porch, and within a stone's throw, I could probably count 12 to 15 different buckets. I've got buckets for all kinds of things. They serve all sorts of different purposes, and they're all in different states of functionality.
I have buckets for honey.
I have buckets for potatoes.
I have a bucket for water. Always water. So much water. So many water buckets.
I have a bucket for sheep, food. Go. I even have a bucket for kittens. But the one bucket that I don't have is the list bucket. I don't have a bucket list. There's no reference anywhere on planet Earth, in any record on the internet or otherwise, of the term bucket list prior to 2007 when that movie was released. That movie created the idea of a bucket list, that before you die, before you kick the bucket, you wanted to have a list of things that you wanted to get done before you left the planet. Everybody knows what a bucket list is. I don't have one. I have some goals, I have some dreams. I don't have a feeling of, if I don't get done these before I die, I miss something. But I'd love to see Ireland and Scotland. I'd love to drive the 48 states in my Jeep. I'd love to get to Bali and just hang out on a beach for 2 weeks with my wife Judy. Those are things that I would enjoy doing. I would love to make those happen, but they're not a thing that I need to do before I die. I just don't have that feeling. As I listened to this parable of the talents in Matthew, and I heard about the master and the 3 servants, I was struck by a few things. I was struck that the master he expected something to be done with this stuff, these talents that the servants were given. And I was particularly moved by this idea that there was a finite amount of time. And in the scripture, we're not actually told how long it was between when he gave the talents to the servants and when he came back. Could have been the day after, could have been a year later. We don't really know. And I think that's deliberate. We don't actually know how much time we have to live the life we've been given. So these servants were all given something different, the way the scripture puts it, each according to their ability. So obviously the master saw something different in each person and said, this is what I'm going to trust you with, and you're going to get this part, and you're going to get this part. And none of them knew how long it was going to be. They just knew that the master expected something in return when he came back. He expected them to have done something with it. And of course, the first 2 servants doubled it, and the 3rd servant had nothing. He just buried it because he was afraid. I identify with that sometimes. Sometimes I just bury my talents because I'm afraid of what people are going to think. Or I'm afraid if it's going to be good enough. I'm afraid that if I don't do a good enough job, then what, So I get that. These servants are not equal in the story. It's not that they're one, more valuable than the other, but they're kind of like my buckets. They're like, I have my tiny little bucket here and I have my big bucket, and they're not the same, but if I fill up tiny little bucket and I fill up great big bucket, they're both maximized. They're both at their best. I would never be able to get everything from big bucket into little bucket. And if I poured little bucket into the empty big bucket, it would just be a fraction of what it's capable of. They're different in terms of weight and volume, but they're the same in terms that they're doing everything that they were designed to do. And that's like those servants. That's exactly what Jesus is telling us about in this story, is that the master gave them everything that they needed. And he gave each one of them something different. And he just wanted them to maximize who they were and what he gave them. When a bucket is empty, it's useful. If I go out to work in the garden or feed the chickens, I need an empty bucket. I got to put water in it. I got to put feed in it. I got to put vegetables in it. If a bucket is full, it's actually kind of useless. It's just static. It's just going to stay that way. So it's useless to me. But a bucket becomes most like a bucket when we pour it out. When we take what's in it and we use it for what it was intended. A bucket of honey is the best when someone takes a spoonful of that honey and takes it out of the bucket and puts it on their warm buttered toast. Or a bucket of water is the best when it's poured out for a family living in a drought-stricken country. Or a bucket of potatoes is the best when it's taken to a food bank and those potatoes are taken out and they're mixed with garlic butter and chives and they're served up to people who need it. That's what a bucket's for. It's meant to be emptied. It's meant to be used and given away. And I guess that's where the concept of bucket lists starts to fall apart. We don't come to this world to take and to fill. We come to this world to give and to empty. We are buckets. We're here to empty ourselves, to give our lives for others. We're here. God intended us to use our strength for others. God intended us to use our creativity for others. God intended us to heal others with our sense of humor, our laughter. My football guys, you guys are strong and you're fast and you're super smart when I watch you making those plays. But what if you took all of those good things and you went out into the community after a big snowfall and you shoveled the walks of single moms and elderly couples? Or my drama people out there that are getting ready to start the productions, you've got the gift of giving stories. You have storytelling. You can bring joy to others through story. And what if you took little stories and acted them out for our elementary kids and shared with them a little bit of what life is about? We're meant to go and love the world with our gifts. We're meant to empty our bucket list. And that's the model that Jesus gave us. It's right there. It's built into who we are. Dying to self and rising for others. That's the ultimate in stewardship. Giving it all away and then knowing that it's going to come back to us in joy and fulfillment. That's what we're created to do. That's stewardship. That's distributing what we've been given to the rest of the world to bring joy and life and love that God intended for all of us. I love you guys. I'm excited for this school year, and I can't wait to see what we're going to do together with our gifts and our talents.